Hello out there in YouTube land, and welcome to How It Could Have Been Better. The Hobbit. So, when I initially heard they're making this movie, The Hobbit into a movie, I was pretty excited. I like the Lord of the Rings movies. I saw that they made a lot of changes, and I was hoping, hey, it's a shorter book. It's going to be easier to make in a movie because there's less material. It'll be easier to fit it all in because they took a lot out of Lord of the Rings. Then I heard they were making it into 3 movies. And that's when I kind of went, oh crap. So I went to the first one. I saw it in theaters. It was very unsatisfying. I didn't even bother seeing the second ones. I didn't realize until today, attempting to follow along with the book and the movie, why it was so unsatisfying when I saw it first. And when I tried to follow along, I was just downright angry. This movie legitimately pissed me off because they changed so many things unnecessarily. I don't mind if they make changes. It's when they make unnecessary changes that I get mad. So there's going to be a bit of a rant here. So first off, the beginning. First 5 to 10 minutes is all just exposition. Now, in a book, exposition is necessary. It doesn't have a visual medium to show you what the author is trying to get across. Okay. The key rule, one of the main rules of film: show, don't tell. So the whole thing in the beginning with Bilbo writing about it and how he has to tell Frodo the whole truth and all that stuff, that's not in here. The Hobbit starts out, I'm actually going to read it. The Hobbit starts out, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green with a shiny yellow brass doorknob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted." Okay, you can show all of that. You don't have to tell it all. You don't have to have Bilbo explain everything. Or, I think, it was Bilbo narrating at that point. Okay, you can show the entire first few pages in a matter of minutes, really seconds, with a visual medium. They didn't do that. Instead, they had Bilbo narrate the entire thing. It's like they almost don't think that The Hobbit can stand on its own, when in reality, The Hobbit was out for about 7 years or so. 7 years or so before the Lord of the Rings came out. It stood on its own for 7 years. They didn't know what was coming next when this first came out. And yet they feel like they have to constantly throw in our faces, this is part of Lord of the Rings, this is part of Lord of the Rings, this is part of Lord of the Rings. No. You don't need to do that. So that's just the beginning. Then we move on to some more changes. Like I said, I was following along for a lot of the movie with the book, or attempting to. So, in the book, Gandalf comes to Bilbo's home. Reminds him of who he is. They did that pretty well. And in the book, a whole day goes by before the dwarves show up. And the movie is that same night. Okay, so the movie's already kind of long. We'll get to that in a bit. Why it shouldn't have been so long. Because they left so much out and added so much in. We'll get there. Anyway, so Gandalf comes, greets him, tells him who he is, reminds him, oh yeah, you know me. Oh yeah, I do know you. That whole thing. It's in the book. It's almost word for word. Cool. So the dwarves show up. First off, they show up in the wrong order. Okay. Supposed to be one dwarf. Then another dwarf comes and says, oh, he's already here. Then another dwarf comes, or then 2 more come. Then 4 more come. Then 5 more come. And in that 5th group, in the last group, Thorin is there. Yeah, in the book, Thorin showed up at the same time as everybody else. Almost. They didn't have to wait for him. He didn't show up later. He didn't have a big dramatic entrance, what you want to call falling on his face under his friends. A big entrance. I mean, he was a side character. And the Hobbit, in the movie, they make him basically the main character. And that was the biggest mistake they made. It's called The Hobbit, not Thorin Oakshield. Okay? It's about Bilbo. This entire book is about Bilbo. Seriously. Every single page almost, it's talking about Bilbo. Every page. He has something to do. In the movie, they take Thorin, make him a more primary character, focus on him a whole lot more, and in general, just completely mess up his character. In the book, Thorin is happy-go-lucky. He's a little more serious than the other dwarves. The other dwarves in the book all have their own personalities, by the way. In the movie, they're just background characters, barely there. They get a few witty lines here and there, but they don't develop them. Book, they all get plenty of time. They all get developed personalities. Thorin, he's a little more serious than the rest of them, but he's a dwarf. He's a goofball. He's drinking. He's singing. He's making jokes. He's doing all sorts of stuff. In the movie, he's this dark, brooding, emo guy who makes Batman look like a happy-go-lucky college boy. Seriously. It's like, what the heck? I don't even know. I don't even know why they felt the need to do that. They completely changed the tone of the book. I'm not even half done, folks. There is so much about this movie that just made me angry. So, they all get there. They don't in the movie, they have this great big long contract thing that they spell out for Bilbo and all this. Oh, Bilbo's character. Almost forgot. Because he was not given a whole... He wasn't given as much precedence as Thorin was. Anyway, so Bilbo. In the book, Bilbo is very hospitable. He's very welcoming. He's reluctantly so, because, well, random people showing up at your house en masse, yeah, you're going to be a little bit miffed, but he was going with it. He didn't try to close the door on Fili and Kili. He let them in. He did try to tell one of them to leave, but not really, because he's a meek character in the beginning. That's his character growth. In the beginning, he's a very meek character. He doesn't have a spine, really, to speak of. It's in there, but he doesn't let it out. He's a hobbit. So, he thinks it rude to tell people to leave. So in the movie, he's all shutting the door in Fili and Kili's face and saying, "No, leave, you got the wrong place," all that sort of thing. He didn't do that in the book. In the movie, he's kind of grumbling the entire time. He didn't do that in the book. He was confused, of course, but he wasn't grumbling. And he just completely ruined Bilbo's character, his personality. Like, in the book, Bilbo is in the beginning, Bilbo is a meek, cautious character, but he has this little spark in there that took side, that wants to go out and explore and wants to go see the world. But he's fighting it. He actually, in the book, Gandalf comes and gets Bilbo and says, "Hey, here's this note. You better hurry, you're going to be late." And he pushes him out the door. Gandalf basically forces Bilbo onto the adventure. And in the movie, Bilbo just goes himself. He has to hurry and catch Gandalf and all of them. In the movie, he has to hurry and rush because Gandalf pushes him out the door and leads him to the inn where all the doors are staying. Completely different, unnecessary. Would have taken the same amount of time to show what the book is, or what the book said, and quite frankly, it would have been more in line with Bilbo's character. So, now we get to my biggest problem, one of my biggest problems with the movie. The main antagonist. In the book, the main antagonist is Smaug. Because guess what? Azog, the white orc, first off, was a goblin in the book. And second, had been dead for 200 years. I believe it's between 200 and 300 years that Azog had been dead before Bilbo was even born. Yeah, Azog wasn't in the book. He was mentioned. And his son, Bolg, comes into play later on in the book during the Battle of the Five Armies, which, by the way, takes up about, let's see here. It starts on page 258. It lasts 10 pages. It's that much of the book. So, anyway, Bolg, or Azog. Azog wasn't in the book. He's mentioned as killing Thorin's grandfather. Something else they messed up in the movie, they said Thror, and by the way, this was in a scene that, again, wasn't in here and lasted like 10 minutes. Thror did not go mad and run off. At least that's not said in here. Said that he left. Not right after the Battle of Moria. It was about 50 to 100 years later where he left. I believe it was to try and go retake the Lonely Mountain. But we don't know. It's not said. It's one sentence in here. There's so much in here in this movie that just was not in the book. They spent probably a good 50 minutes to an hour total on the whole Azog plot. And they gutted the book to put in that whole Azog plot. And it was completely unnecessary. This book is fantastic. It could have stood on its own. Just the story of this book could have stood on its own. Easily. But nope. They had to add stuff in to make it exciting and stretch it out so they could make it 3 movies. Honestly, there's barely enough in here for one movie. 1 3-hour movie. There's barely enough. Because if they were good filmmakers and followed the show don't tell rule, they could have shown probably 30% of this book just with different scenes and stuff, just different things going on, people doing things. But this book is not super dialogue heavy. It's got songs in here. There's a good amount of dialogue, but it's not dialogue heavy. It's description heavy, because Tolkien is description heavy, but it's not dialogue heavy. Another thing that made me angry. By the way, I was following along. I could follow along to a certain degree. About the hour and a half mark, they have made it to page 70 of the book. Took them an hour and a half. Now, I get it. Bit different putting a book into a movie. I get that. But there's so much description about stuff that they could just show as other stuff was happening. It shouldn't have taken them that long. What caused them to take that long is all the time they wasted on the stuff that they added in there. This movie would have been so much better. And here's what we get to. This movie would have been so much better if they had followed the book better. If they had not added in the whole Azog plot line. If they had not taken out Bjorn. Bjorn was nowhere to be seen in this movie. Apparently, I haven't seen the second and third ones. I'm not going to bother. They shouldn't have been made. There's so much extra material in there. Yeah, I get it. Okay, it's from the Silmarillion. But it inserts the characters of this book and the Lord of the Rings book. Legolas is in there. And it even makes up a character. I don't even know her name is. Some female elf that has a stupid love triangle with, I think it's Fili and Legolas, who wasn't in here. If they were not so obsessed with money, that's the problem. That's the main problem with this. They were obsessed with money, and they wanted to make 3 movies because they knew people would eat it up, and they have. There are people who love these movies and think they're fantastic, even though it butchers the source material. that they stretched a 282-page book, 282 pages, into 3 movies. See, my problem with the Lord of the Rings books is they took stuff out. They removed stuff out of the books. They didn't put everything in. 1 movie per book. Okay. 1 movie per book. The Fellowship of the Ring. Mind you, these movies, The Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, were all the same length, roughly, as The Hobbit. The Fellowship of the Ring. 529 pages. 1 movie. They left stuff out. They had to. The Two Towers. 442 pages. Again, they left stuff out because they had to. Otherwise, they would have been 4.5, 5-hour movies. Return of the King. 452 pages. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. It's one of the appendices. Oh, gosh, the appendices are really long. So, Return of the King, which actually had the least taken out of it, although major plot point removed, Scouring the Shire. That made me mad. But the shortest book in the Lord of the Rings series. .378 pages. Again, 1 movie. The shortest book in the Lord of the Rings series was nearly 100 pages longer than The Hobbit. They made it into 1 movie. And it was far more faithful to the book than this piece of trash movie. Yeah, I said this movie made me mad. I like this book better than the other books. The other books are great. I like this one better. Character more lovable. It's less dark. You get to know the characters a little better. I mean, it still gets dark, but it's a lot less dark than The Fellowship and The Two Towers and Return of the King. But, yeah. They had to take stuff out of those books, or out of those movies. They had to leave stuff out from the books because they didn't have time. They didn't want to make a 5-hour movie for each book. Nobody would watch them. Well, they'd watch them, but not as huge numbers as what they got. Then they turn around and take this book that is 100 pages shorter than the shortest book in the original in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Add stuff that wasn't in there, add characters that weren't in there, make up characters, and leave out big plot points in favor of adding stuff in. Come on. So basically what it all boils down to is, if I were to remake this movie, yeah, they definitely tried to make Thorin like Aragorn. I just saw the comment, Peter. Yeah, they definitely tried to make him like Aragorn, and that was a bad move. But the bottom line is, if I were to remake this movie, I would follow the book better. This is not a long book. It's really not. I mean, look at this. It's not a long book. And They could have followed it easily. That's the awesome thing about Tolkien's books. They're written like I've read parts of screenplays and stuff. They're written the way the way Tolkien describes things, the way that he describes the scenery and has the characters talk. It's a lot more similar to a screenplay than a lot of other novels, a lot of other writers. So it's a lot easier. It should be a lot easier to transcribe into a movie. But unfortunately, they just wanted money, and they know that people don't have the best taste in movies. Unfortunately, I mean, look at the success of movies like Twilight and the Transformers franchise. Those movies are horrible, and yet people eat them up. It's like dangling keys in front of babies. At least with the Transformers movies. I don't know what the Twilight movies were. My gosh. Anyway. Explosions everywhere. Big shiny robots. All that stuff. Ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty. How The Hobbit could have been better. Summed up in 3 words. Leave Tori aloud. I haven't actually seen the second and third ones. Honestly, how it could have been better. Don't even make it into 3 movies. Leave Azog out of the first movie. That'll save you about an hour of screen time to actually put the rest of the book in there. Because this, like I've said, this is not a long book, and it's written pretty similarly to a screenplay already. Should have been pretty easy. But nope, they had to add in a bunch of material to make it more entertaining and stretch it out so they can make 3 movies and make a bunch of money because people don't have good taste in movies anymore. So, yeah. That's pretty much the end of my rant. I could probably go on for another hour, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to keep you guys that long. I want to make it so this actually uploads later tonight. This is already going to be my longest video on my channel. When I go on a rant, I go on a rant. Ask my wife. Right, honey? Yeah, when I go on a rant, I go on a rant. And so yeah, those are my thoughts that I'm gonna do. Like I said, I'm not gonna bother with the second and third Hobbit movies. To me, they don't even deserve to exist. Quite frankly, they shouldn't have been made. It's not a long enough book. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Basically sum it up. Let the book stand on its own. It is a fantastic story. Let it stand on its own. Don't try and throw a bunch of Lord of the Rings characters in there because they weren't there. And leave characters that were dead or didn't exist out of it. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to end my rant now. I will... Yeah, I agree, Peter. I was really disappointed as well. And yeah, I felt my blood kind of boiling when I watched it today. Yeah, this anger is kind of fresh. I watched it a few hours ago for the second time ever, and having the book in front of me didn't help. So anyway, guys, I will see y'all next time. I'm not sure who Failwind Silverwing is. I'm not sure who that is, but you missed a good chunk of this. This will be up on this channel. It'll be posted. It'll be uploaded within a few hours, probably within an hour or so. So yeah, you can watch the whole thing and see my whole rant. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.